Disclaimer. The hosts of this podcast, Timothy Patrick and Will Foley, are by no means professionals. However, having lived experience with mental illness themselves, they have gained useful perspectives on common mental health issues that some of us struggle to overcome on a daily basis. By sharing their stories, they hope to create connection. By creating connection, they hope to help you find your purpose. And through purpose, we can all begin to build the foundations for positive mental health. This is the Above Ground Podcast.
Are you ready to lace up your boots, throw up your horns, and jump into the pit? Then let's stomp the stigmas of mental illness. It's time for Above Ground Podcast. Now, Will Foley and Timothy Patrick.
What is up? Welcome to Above Ground Podcast.
Above Ground Podcast, because you can't serve below.
Who's that over there? That's TPP. Are you down with TPP?
Yeah, you know me.
Yeah. You know why we're talking about like this? Because tonight we are talking about something that, tonight everyone knows a lot about now, but men know a lot more about, and that's rage.
Understanding the 9 triggers of rage.
This is a perfect way to start a non.
This is an episode that's been
suicide,
in the making for
mental
the
health awareness,
for the past
suicide
10
awareness
years.
month. Yeah.
So,
oh boy, where are we going to start?
well, I'm going to just start with this really quick because this was brought to my attention. I'm going to say a month ago, and it really flipped everything around for me. I was just kind of blown away. And so I sent it to Will, and he was immediately let's do it. Let's do an episode.
Yeah.
So here it is. It's called Life Morts, and basically, it's helping you understand the 9 triggers of rage.
Oh, and there's only 9?
Well,
what do you mean?
9 according to what's his name? Do we have his name?
Oh, yeah. 9 according to the book Why We Snap: Understanding the Rage Circuit in Your Brain. Mm-hmm. Douglas Fields calls it snapping.
Snapping.
That's right. The brain is hardwired to snap, actually. That's what he says in his book.
Well, I've said that before on the podcast. It's hardwired. It's got a negativity bias.
Yeah.
The brain is like Velcro for negativity.
Yes, it is. It's
Unfortunately.
it's like the biggest magnet you could have.
Yeah.
It attracts.
That's why we got to try and make it like Teflon. Our brain is like Teflon, work it out. So all the negativity just bounces off. Your brain just gives it like an elbow. Like a DDT. So yes, so Life Morts,
I prefer choke slam, but okay.
Well, whatever. It's an acronym. So it's LIFEMORTS. And then each one has the L in Life Morts is life or limb. So almost anyone will defend themselves in what is perceived as a life or death attack.
Makes sense.
It makes perfect sense.
It makes
it's like
perfect
a survival
sense.
mechanism.
Well, but every form that takes place on this earth has that.
Oh yeah,
from animals. I mean,
and even take it a step further. There's territorial animals that their packs and their own land. So it's like you come onto you go in their hood, and it's not a good idea.
That's true.
But yeah, so that's one of the life morts. The next one is insult. Oof, goddamn.
Oh yeah, they're tough, man.
Insults.
You talking to me?
Insults will easily provoke rage.
Yes, they will, and sometimes rightfully so. But sometimes most of the time, I would say the person throwing the insult knows that that's what it does.
Oh, absolutely.
So I mean,
absolutely. Let me read
there's some
these,
needling 24/7 going on there.
We'll read these and then we'll go back and revisit them as we're, you know what I mean? Because that way it'll. You
All right, so run down the list there.
So life or limb. I is insult. F is family. Again, protecting family members against attacks or threat. Like Will said with the first one, it's like, yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's very logical. And
well, family means anybody that's part of your clan.
right.
Like, that could be friends, too. It doesn't just mean family.
Well,
it
yeah.
means... Oh, well, tribe is in there, too, later. Sorry. Because I almost don't look at those differently, because most people look at
Well,
a lot of them
yeah.
do.
What's the E there?
The E is environment or territorialism. Territorialism, which you just spoke of with the animals.
Mm-hmm.
M is mate, which does kind of go with the family, right?
Yeah.
But maybe not. I don't know.
It's more specific to your mate, though. You know, whether,
Okay.
you know. So family is like just, obviously, if you have, you know, I guess let's say this, some people don't have technically a family. It's just, you know, them and or their spouse or mate or whatever.
Sure. Right, I get that.
So.
And O is organization.
Order in society, isn't it?
It says organization here. It says order in society. So I wonder if on this one they made it a little different in the Science magazine, and only because order in society organization, you could almost kind of be like
you could. I like this one personally because for me it's you know, I for some reason it's a trigger for me, like the whole justice thing. It's like, you know what I mean? Like if someone...
but all right. So go through the rest of them, and then we'll touch on the ones that...
Resources, that's the same, right?
Yep. Your lack of resources.
Yes.
Yep.
Tribe.
Yep. Us and them mentality.
And then the last letters, S, is for stopped.
Yeah, stop.
Yep. Stop.
And it says being trapped, restrained, or cornered.
Mm-hmm. Being restrained, imprisoned, cornered, or impending pursuing one's desires.
Now, I'm just looking at all these, and right away, you can clearly see why we have the issues that we have going on, because everybody is enraged from everything.
Right.
And all of these are on full display 24/7 right now. They're all of them.
Yeah.
Not one over the other. They're all part of it. Because like you could start at any one of these and make the dots connect to the constellation. You could make 50 different you could make I don't know, 27 different constellations.
When I saw this
or more
for the first time, I was like, it just changed everything for me. It was like, I really started to see a lot of other things differently that not even really that pertain to this, but even like, well, I guess it does pertain to this. You know, like one of the things that I thought of is, you know, you're walking around. Let's just say like most of the public out there is walking around with unregulated emotions. So right off the bat, right off the rip, you're already a few steps back.
Oh yeah, and that's. I mean, how many people live with mental or an undiagnosed mental health condition that we don't know about?
Right. So there's 1 in 5 people standing around.
Right. So
you know what I mean?
Well, right, and then that's the thing, though. You take one of these and throw it into a personality like that, and you've got enough of an issue,
right? Because
I could pick out, any one of these.
Pick one. Let's pick out one of each, and we'll kind of just discuss a little bit about each of them, right?
Yeah, we can hit upon all of them, because I think that we've probably seen. I mean, this is probably like an episode that you could like have a really good discussion.
Oh yeah, this could be deep for sure.
But all right, so life or limb. So you take that into consideration that if you're being threatened, you sense you're being threatened. It doesn't matter who's threatening you. So you take both of those things together, and there's no easy solution for that. Mm-hmm. It's like, but you know what I mean? It's like that just one thing right there, just that one thing. Mm-hmm. Like, so you like, then you throw like because you could easily go into any of this, insult the family in an you know what I mean? You could make.
Oh yeah.
Like you could play the Life Mort's puzzle. How many different scenarios of rage can you come up with?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, but I think I could be wrong, but I think the I think these are like almost like the birth. Maybe the birthplace. I think he was trying to like say like this is where they really start from. This is where they're born.
Well, that's what, but right, because that's what he is trying to. He's trying to make people understand that we all have these triggers. Like everybody can be triggered by these. Everybody.
Yeah.
So what he's trying to do is that we're hardwired that way because there's certain chemicals in us. There's certain environmental stimuli that happen.
Yeah.
Which now I'm really interested in. I got to read the book, man. I'm just reading. That's after just reading an interview with him.
Let's just throw other stuff on like stress. The average person walking around is stressed, I'm sure. So you add stress onto that. So that stress within itself is already, again, you're you know what I mean? You're like getting kicked back notches because you're already like behind the game. You know what I mean? If you're stressed out.
Okay, but that still doesn't excuse anything.
None of this does.
But it does explain stuff.
That's all it does.
But
I'm not saying it excuses
maybe,
it, but if somebody snaps, or what was the word that you use? The S. Didn't you say something about S? You like? I don't know what does this guy call it?
Stopped. The S.
No, I thought you said something different.
Oh, maybe I don't know.
Snap. Did you say?
Snapped? Yeah.
Okay,
oh, yeah.
So
snapped.
let's say somebody snaps. Okay, for one of the first times, and then you go. Now, let's go, okay, let's look at the situation. This guy snapped and did XYZ, or this woman snapped and did XYZ. Let's take them and punish them now. And on top of the punishment, we're going to shame them. Okay? So now, instead of saying, let's figure out what happened, and go, let's look at the situation, look at the background a little bit, and go, we're not giving you a free pass. We're not excusing it. We're just trying to get an explanation. Does this guy deserve the cell for the rest of his life because of XYZ?
Wow, dude, that's a really fine line to say that just because we're hardwired to do this, you have a choice, regardless of whether you snap or not, man.
It depends. I don't know. I disagree, actually.
Yeah, it sounds to me like it's just like an excuse to do whatever.
I disagree with you 100%.
with no impunity.
No.
I just don't. There's a certain part in any of these issues where I think that you always have. There's always that minute or second or whatever it is.
You're wrong. You don't always have that minute or second. If you're in a situation,
then you're just reacting to old emotions that you haven't dealt with.
Sure.
But that doesn't excuse them. That's not an excuse.
I'm not saying none of it excuses it.
Yeah, but that's what it makes it sound like if you're saying, why can't we get to the root of it? You can, but there's certain things that you still need to punish, regardless of whether you got to get to the root of it or not.
Okay.
I mean, you can't, what I mean? You can't.
So are you going to punish like a toddler? For certain things?
When you're talking about punishment, are we talking about children? We talking about criminals? Because you have to be contextual.
Punishment's punishment. You can punish somebody over
here. I think you're
and
pulling
it's going to affect them. No, it's not.
I think. Well, dude, you know what?
No
I
way.
think that's.
That's all right. We can disagree. I don't think
know if I agree with that.
Situations, if you are already unstable, let's say, or unregulated, you're stressed out. Let's say that
you're making up. It just sounds like you're trying to make up an excuse for
how is this
a meltdown.
I'm surprised that you even go there.
It's not. It just that's what it just sounds.
Okay,
that's what it's triggering in me.
Okay,
it does. It just sounds like we're trying to excuse whatever we perceive as bad behavior by saying, "Oh, we're all hardwired to do this, so it's okay." Just because you're
I'm not
just
saying
because
it's okay. I never once said it was okay.
I'm not saying that you are, but that argument to me that's what it sounds like to me.
Well, maybe you should learn more about it because it's not that at all.
Okay. Well, then maybe you ought to explain it to me then.
I'm just saying.
I don't need to learn more about it. You need to explain it to me.
Okay.
Then. So explain it to me because I want to hear this explanation.
Okay. So if you have, these are 9 different triggers, okay?
Right.
So you have a situation where somebody is already unregulated. Maybe We don't even know. We don't even know what happened yesterday to this person. Maybe that they lost a loved one in an accident, a freak accident. Okay.
Okay.
So they didn't sleep. They didn't eat. Okay. So then, how many things you got going against them? Okay.
Freak accident.
And then we take 3 of these 9, not just 1, but 3 of them. Okay. Pick 3 of them. The environment, insult. There's 2. 3, life or limb. All at once.
Life or limb. Is he being held up?
I don't know what it is. It's not my call to make up a scenario. It's just
Well, how is it not? How is it not? You got to put it in. I mean, that like again, if you're gonna paint it with that broad a brush, then I have to go. Then I have to be on the other side of it and say no.
Okay.
It's not an excuse for anything.
I don't want to change your mind. I'm just
no.
saying.
I know, and I'm not. And trust me, you're not. But it's like I'm trying to get a contextual point so I can understand like a point you're trying to make
so
rather than just saying
that
it's.
you deem that's something that lines up with your ideals and values. If you deem it, then it's okay.
No, that doesn't make it right. I didn't say anything.
All right, I'm asking.
No.
Okay.
You do something wrong. You do something wrong.
Okay.
Period, dude.
Okay.
And you got to face something. That's the point of being transparent. That's what transparency is. Transparency is letting all that shit happen. That doesn't excuse it, and saying that you have this trigger and this trigger and this trigger, and that caused me to do X, Y, and Z is a cop out to me. It just sounds wishy-washy.
Okay.
It sounds like it's almost reactionary to a version of seeing it.
What if somebody at your work? What if you were taking off excessive days at work?
Okay.
Due to your mental health.
Yeah.
And some boss there was like, "I don't buy it. I think it's wishy-washy. I think he's just using this as an excuse."
You can't. That's for them to say. That's for them to say and them to prove, which you can't. They wouldn't be able to prove because you would obviously have documentation from work saying. Because obviously, when you have certain mental health conditions,
right? So what if you had documentation saying that all this stuff you have?
Well,
certain...
then he should. First of all, that should not be said on the workroom floor. First of all, second of all, if it can be corroborated, then there should be something looked into because that shouldn't be said at all. Period. From anybody. If that was said about somebody on the workroom floor.
No, I'm just saying in general. I'm saying, how would you feel if you were taking excessive days off? And no one else knew, but the boss himself was like, "No, like, you're using your illness or whatever."
Of course he's going to feel, but you got to look at it from the other side too. Of course he's going to feel that way.
Okay, so then,
and I'm not saying that's right. Okay, I'm not saying that's right.
Okay,
and then if you obviously know that and you can prove it, then it's up to somebody that is whoever it is. That's up to them to prove that they can. And that's up to them to get this bastard in trouble because that's you can't say shit like that
when somebody. But it happens.
It does. But
it's illegal
you know what?
To drink and drive, and people do it every day.
Right. But the thing is that they don't want you to fight anything. That's why they make things hard.
But that doesn't to relate it to this. Like you said, well, then it's up to them to prove. So if in this situation, if the 3 of these triggers,
I'm trying to figure out how this is triggering rage. That's what I'm like. I'm.
In you?
No. I'm not enraged.
What do you mean?
I'm trying to figure out how this plays into the. Are we just talking about triggers right now? We're not talking about.
I was using the story of you. With mental illness and then taking excessive days. I was using that as an example to line it up with this because you had zero. You were like, no way, like that's hogwash. It's an excuse.
For the way you were explaining it to me, it sounded like you were setting it up to be this grandiose excuse for somebody to do something that they know they shouldn't do, and just excusing it.
No, that's your perception of it.
Like that's what it sounded like to me.
Okay, that's fair.
But I said that. But I said that.
Okay,
I said that, and I even told you that it triggered me. I told you that.
That's fine.
But I didn't say that if whoever this boss was to whoever this person would be, if that was the case, he's not. Neither one of them. he's not right for saying it.
Right.
But it's also not right for the person that it's being said to not stand up against it. And it's also, you still have to have documentation. So there's ways to prove it. So anybody can say anything you want. Remember Don Ruiz, can't take anything personally. Doesn't matter what they say about you.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I just.
So you can't use that.
Right, I wanted to see how you felt about it. That's all.
Oh, yeah,
because
no,
you were
but-
very adamant about this. Like, no way, that's hogwash. But if a boss says it to you because of an illness, I just wanted to see how you reacted.
Yeah, of
that's
course,
all.
dude, because it's a legitimate thing.
Okay.
Now, granted, the culture in some of the workplaces I've been in is horrible.
Right.
So again, you're not going to get a fair shake anywhere.
You're not.
And
I know.
people.
But I'm saying maybe a person that snapped and did something that was illegal, or not even illegal. Let's just say not even illegal. Let's just say that the person snapped and grabbed their toddler by the arm and really pulled it rough, and maybe it gave him a bad bruise or something like that. And because there was this fight with the parents, one of them turned the other one in and was like, they did it out of anger and spite, and then the cops were just like, well, let's take this guy in. He's got anger issues, but without trying to go through and say, well, maybe he doesn't really necessarily have anger issues. Maybe there's something else underneath it.
Yeah, but that's you
Again,
still got.
I'm not saying it's an excuse, but it's you're treating somebody unfair.
In the eyes of the law, the kid being abused is unfair. There's no two ways around that.
Okay.
So if that's
But that's a different situation. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, but you just use this,
Right.
so I'm
Right,
using
but
it back to you that if somebody was to call, and they have to look into it, that's the law. Anybody would have to look into that.
Right.
It's the law. A
But
doctor
what
would
I'm
have to look
saying-
into it.
What
It's
I'm
just-
saying is, if they instead
it
of
doesn't
looking into it, the cops just came and said they heard it and they thought the same mindset you did. Well, he broke the law. He harmed this child, so he broke the law. I don't care anything else. He broke the law. We're going to stick to that law, even though they bend that law every other fucking day of the week. Let's stick to this.
No, the idea is
and
that
nail this guy to the wall
it-
for this, instead of saying, "Wait a minute, let's look at the situation."
Looking into it, it has to be done. It
Right.
has to be like legitimately.
Right.
Anything, regardless
what
of
I'm
whether
saying.
you were yanking a kid out of the road to keep him from a car. Like it would still
I mean, to a certain extent, I think that.
Well, obviously, there's a lot in play when it comes to.
I going back to the life more. I think that it just makes you think differently. For me, like, you know what I mean. You can't just look at somebody and be like, oh, he raged and drove his car into somebody's house because of this, and then let's just automatically assume that the person who drove the car is just an evil person with rage issues.
Well, obviously they've got rage issues
Well,
because
do
they're
they have-
raging.
Does that mean
how do
they
you
have
not have a rage issue? We all have a rage issue.
But did they have a rage issue, or does it maybe
Sure.
something else is unchecked?
Yes. No, I don't think so, because I still think that.
So then everything is a rage issue,
So if
then?
we have.
Everything's a rage issue.
I did not say that everything was a
No,
rage
I'm
issue.
asking.
Everything is being raged against right now in this time because there's been a lot of shit that hasn't
I
been
know,
raged
I'm not
against.
talking about that. I'm saying in general, just sticking to this sheet without trying
Dude,
to
sticking to
focus.
this sheet, I mean, you can see there's 9 things here.
Right.
I mean, I would say the majority of us can probably explain 6 of these.
So if somebody broke into your house, okay, and you woke up and you were like, you were startled, and you grabbed the first thing you saw was a hammer and you bashed this person's brains in.
Yep. Okay.
Now, I'm a police officer. I'm going to be like, this guy has rage issues. He just
Okay. That's fine.
Okay, that's cool. If
That's
how
fine.
you feel, then that makes sense.
That's fine, because
Okay.
dude, he broke into my house. I bashed his brains in because I thought he was going to kill me.
Okay.
Period.
That's fine.
That's
you-
okay,
all
and I'm
right.
down with that.
All right.
I'm not going to deny that. That's not it. You know what I mean? There's no
But what if they
denying
wanted
that.
to charge you and
Then-
said you had rage issues?
Well, then that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Then
Okay,
get me a
cool.
lawyer and we'll fight it out in court.
Okay.
Because I don't necessarily think somebody breaking into your house is going to bring up rage issues. Because the thing is that because
no, but this is what I mean. You're condensing rage into this small little compartment of just it's rage.
No,
I'm saying
no.
all these 9
No,
different
what it
triggers
sounds like is you're trying to spread rage like peanut butter on a fucking piece of bread so you can have it with every meal. That's what it sounds like to me.
No, I'm not at all. I'm not intending to if I did.
Because the thing is that
I was trying to understand your train
because
of
here's the
thought
thing.
towards it.
I don't necessarily just because you have these triggers doesn't mean that they're going to be triggered every day. Or that you have to let them be triggered every day.
True.
Because that's the idea of mindfulness, is to work on not triggering these things.
But you're assuming that everybody knows about mindfulness and knows how to understand triggers. And
I'm not assuming anything.
Well, you
because
just
I already know people don't. Because,
okay. Well, then you can't say that.
But here's the problem,
should
though.
know better.
In any situation, anything, okay, anything.
Okay.
There's always two sides, right? There's always black and white. There's always up, down,
sure.
Moon, sun, whatever. Okay. Now, if you're in a situation and you are in a situation facing another human being,
right?
Okay. Both human beings have the responsibility to themselves first to make the right call on judgment. Okay. Now, things cloud your judgment. Yes. Rage will cloud your judgment. Yes. Okay. All the dump of the testosterone and all the shit that goes through your system will have effects on all of it. However, you still have a responsibility to yourself. Okay, first. 2, if you can, is to de-escalate a situation in anything. Okay. And I know it's very hard to do. So you always have, in most situations, you have a choice. I don't care what anybody says. You always have a choice. There comes a point in that situation, though, when the choice does not become yours. And it becomes this ball of energy that you get swept up in.
Okay.
Okay? Now that there is time in between that ball of energy and that getting to that point of lighting that fuse, that there is enough time in there. If you connect with yourself enough, and you can
right. See, now you're using it in a different. But I agree with you up until that point because not everybody can connect themselves or know enough to do that.
Right, but here's the thing. So, as someone who knows this, okay, I'm not saying you put it into practice every day, and I'm not saying that I do. But the more times that you can, those are the times when you need it the most. Is at those situations because it's you that knows this, that is responsible for the energy, for the knowledge. If you're going to, you know what I mean? Like, think about it. When we transport this knowledge, technically, it's just like the Jedi books, man. Whoever gets the Jedi books is responsible for them.
Okay.
So it is our responsibility to try to use these tools and energy as much as we can. Now, I'm not saying that we're successful at it all the time, because we're not. But that's the idea, is to get better every time.
Absolutely.
However, part of that getting better is recognizing that A, you have a trigger, B, you know what that trigger is, and C, trying to collaborate with that trigger to not let it explode. And the thing is that when you have the same explosion all the time, it's very hard to turn over the trick because that reaction is just there.
Would you say that rage should be like considered more of like maybe in like the DSM or something like that?
Well, I don't know if there's any. I'm sure there is. I don't know. I'm sure there are, because the DSM has got a lot of stuff in it, and there's things that I just never looked into because I didn't have any experience.
No, that's fine. But I'm just
I'm sure that
opinion.
I'm sure that there's disorders for rage. I mean, obviously we know, man. There's anger management courses,
right? But
so
there's got to be belongs in there. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do, because I think that you can treat rage. You can treat your rage issues, especially if you know them. You have rage issues.
You can treat anything then.
You can treat anything. You can. You certainly can. I'm not saying that every way of treating it is going to make it better, or make it better all the time. Because again, this isn't like, this is something that you have to build on every day and every time you can. And now I'm not saying it's easy. It's because it's not, man. It's not. If it was, we'd all be walking around. We'd all be walking around.
Easy, but I'm just saying, like, I was kind of just going off by what you said.
But I don't think that you can. I think that rage is a. I think that rage is a byproduct of so many things that so many of us all go through, man. And doubt and fear and just all that shit that's going on. And then,
but it's also, I feel like there's other variables to it than just that. Like, that's the basis maybe, but like, there's interpersonal, there's environment. It's like you can't.
Right, but you can't. I mean, the thing is, though, then that affects everything all the time.
Yeah, it kind of does.
I mean, are you ready to snap all the time? Even I'm not ready to snap all the time.
You said affect. You didn't say with rage. It just affects everything. I'm not specifically talking about rage when I said that. That's what I was saying. Like interpersonal environment, that affects everything. Not just rage.
Your environment always affects everything.
Right.
And so does your inner work affects everything. But the inner work should be able to help you dial down and tampen it enough to either not have it affect you as much.
Should, that's the key word. That's what I'm saying. Should. That's like someone with depression. That's like saying, well, you should be able to just be happy because, you have a multi-platinum album.
But that's why I also said that I don't think that rage... I think that rage is a byproduct of many things. I don't necessarily think that rage is an emotion. I mean, it is technically, I guess, an emotion because it's an angry emotion. But I don't necessarily know if... I mean, rage doesn't excuse every bad thing in the world, man. It just doesn't.
No, well, nothing does, though, either.
You know what I mean?
Having an illness doesn't either. Having cancer or having autism.
Well, no, but
none of that's going to either.
No, none of it should. None of it should. It shouldn't. Because none of that, I mean, there's certain things, there's certain disabilities and stuff, yeah, where people don't have faculties. Okay, for sure. But I don't think that you can classify rage as that. And I don't think that you can classify...
You don't think you could classify it as like a psychological problem?
I mean, a rageaholic? I mean, I don't know. I would assume there probably is.
I don't know. I feel like you definitely could. It's definitely psychological. I mean, there's, I do. I feel like it's definitely psychological. There's more to it. There's, they say that
but then
genes can even be you could be predisposed to certain triggers before you even know what they are. And
well, yeah, but then when you learn what they are, the idea is that you.
That's the idea. That's yeah.
I mean,
look,
in
a perfect world, dude.
Yeah, I get that, man. But it's but unfortunately, though, man, if you've seen the same rage from the same person for so long, dude, none of it's going to excuse any of it. I'm just saying.
I'm not trying to excuse it though. Stop. I don't.
But dude, that's what that explanation sounds like to me.
Which one?
That first one that you were trying to pass off. Well, if you got this and we're all dysregulated, it just sounds like
okay. Well, I'll remember
it
that.
It just sounds like.
All right, I'll remember that because I'm going to use it in some of the. All right.
It does.
Fine.
It just sounds like I don't know, man. I can't.
I didn't really get to tell the full thing, but that's fine.
Oh, we got time, buddy. We got time.
Nah.
We got all the time in the world.
So
well, we got all the time in the Hallam Halls, man. Whenever we get kicked out.
So even some of this rage is even I would think controlled by like unconscious behaviors or the unconscious brain. So it's like I don't feel like that it's as simple and cut and dry as you're making it out. That's all.
And you know what? And it probably isn't. It probably isn't. Now I think we're going to have to both read this book so we can come back and have another discussion about it so we can see what he says.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what. Let me just read this here quick. Let's see. Road rage is just one example of what he's a neurobiologist. Biologist. Jesus. Neurobiologist. Douglas Field calls snapping. From domestic violence to mass shootings. The news is full of stories and seemingly normal people suddenly going berserk. But how and why does this happen? The traditional explanation is that these outbreaks of rage and violence are aberrations, the result of moral and psychological defects. See? That's what I said. But in his timely new book, Why We Snap, Understanding the Rage Circuit in Your Brain, Field shows that violent behavior is often the result of the clash between the modern world and the evolutionary hardwiring of our brains.
Okay, we've heard that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, it still doesn't.
It's no one's saying that it does.
Dude, I'm not connecting the constellations here, man.
We're done with this. Will can't get over the fact that no one's saying that it.
That could have been my unintentional bias, but
yeah, maybe. So are men more prone to rage and violence than women?
I don't know.
When you look
women
at the
can
subject,
be pretty violent when they want to be.
Well, I don't know.
Man.
Let's see what this says here. When you look at the subject of aggression, there is no more important factor than gender. Something like 90% of the people in prison for violent crimes are men.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Men have different brains than women, which comes from our different roles during evolution. When the brain was formed, men had a role of being aggressive, which makes no sense for a woman because a woman was not endowed with the physical strength of a man, who probably outweighs her. But although 90% of those in jail are men, 90% of people who have been awarded medals by the Carnegie Institute for Heroism are also men. In a quarter of those cases, these are men who gave up their lives and died in an instant to do something heroic, often for a stranger. So the rage circuit is good and bad. It's a double-edged sword. See that?
Wow, you earned your man badge today.
I did? Why?
I was going to start playing a drinking game with how many more times you had to say man.
I'm just reading it. Jeez. Just because this guy says it doesn't excuse you to say the word. Excuse you to accuse me.
Excuse you.
Jesus.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
I just think this stuff is interesting, and I think there's more to it than what we discussed here.
Oh, I'm sure there's always more to everything we discuss here. Because remember, we're not professionals by any means.
No. Wasn't there another? I thought there was another sheet with this, no?
Yeah, it just had the 9 triggers that make us angry.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit on the back, but... But he does also say, man, that he goes into more details about how the brain may sometimes send false warnings due to these triggers.
Right. But that doesn't accept it. That doesn't give.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't excuse.
But then I could say that with somebody who has autism. If he does something in public, his brain is sending a message. A different message.
His brain is sending a different message because his brain is functionally different.
Well, so how do you know? How do you know that a person with rage isn't?
Nah, I think you're grasping at straws. That's what I really think. I do.
I think Will's grasping at straws.
I think my straw bed just fell down.
Will just said that we're not medical professionals in one sentence, as the same as he said he knows that rage is not the same.
I didn't say I know. I said I don't think that rage is the same.
Okay.
I don't think it is.
Okay.
I just don't.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't know how you could compare the two. Rage to autism? Really?
It's your brain, dude. If there's something wrong with the brain...
No, okay? No, that's bullshit. Stop. Dude,
well,
how can you like? That's like
What?
saying that somebody who has a mental disability has the same brain as somebody who just has a fucking rage issue. No, the person with the rage issue needs to get himself fucking checked and see if he can relax a little bit.
So you're stigmatizing
That's what it
rage.
is.
Okay, I see. What
I'm
you're
not
doing.
stigmatizing
You
anything,
are.
man. No, I'm not. But I'm
you're
calling
saying
it out
it's okay for this person over here to have to do something because they're, disabled by who knows what standards, and then this person over here could be just raging, and he because he's raging.
They could very well be.
Okay, but it
I
could
just
be
think-
a psychological
I think
thing. Their brain could have a dysfunction.
Sure, it could be. It could be a.
and
it
the
could
person,
be a relation
the person who's
to.
handicapped could be just fucking lazy or fat.
That's true too. I mean, anybody
Exactly.
can be anything, but to
Well-
compare rage to that's just bullshit,
I was
dude.
comparing
That's bullshit.
brains.
Now, you're not comparing two of the same thing because those brains are definitely
Well, of
different.
course, I'm not comparing two the same thing.
but
But
how
I'm
you're
comparing
not?
the
I mean,
dysfunction with the brain as the dysfunction of the brain. Each brain has a dysfunction. It's got
a dysfunction, all right.
Well, each brain's
Yeah,
going to be
that's-
different, but if there's something wrong, that is maybe it's a tumor in the brain that's pushing on something.
That could be,
Right.
but
So you're gonna stigmatize this person and be like, you know what, fuck him because he's raging. He doesn't deserve the respect or anything else that
No,
this
that's
person
not
gets
what I'm
because they're
saying.
handicapped.
But here's
and let alone this guy's got a tumor in his head.
well, how the fuck do you know he's even got a tumor in his head?
Well, how do you know he doesn't?
Oh, okay. Just because he doesn't.
don't know.
Just because. Well, come
I'm
on,
showing
man.
you the
so
I'm
that's going to
showing you-
excuse what? That's going to excuse somebody from pulling
no.
somebody over in a car and
Doesn't
taking them out and
excuse
beating them
anybody
up.
from anything.
I
It's
mean,
just
really?
there's variables.
They're all variables.
Okay. Well, it's a dysfunction in the brain. That's all I'm saying. It is. You can laugh all you want, but
I am.
that's my opinion.
That's
it's
your
the same-
opinion.
same-
Let the record stand. Okay, that's his opinion, not mine.
Well,
Ah, Timmy. What would we do without each other?
yes, exactly. I think that's all I have on this subject.
Yeah. And we did this in the first run.
I know.
Ah, excuse me.
Do you want to add anything to it?
No, dude, I'm
Jesus, Will's raging because
raging.
I had
I'm
opinions.
raging.
See
No.
how this works?
No, this is good. He's got his own opinions. I got mine.
Welcome to the Will Foley Show.
They're all his opinions, not mine.
That's all right. Doesn't mean they're wrong. Doesn't mean they're right.
No, you're right. It doesn't mean they're wrong. Doesn't mean they're right. Nope, you're right. Like I said, the more I've learned, the less I know. So, all right. Until next week,
Be well.
be safe.
Be
Be above.